Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to thank Heaven's grace and the enlightened Holy Teacher's virtues. Thank my parents and thank our predecessor, our senior transmitter, Jin, all transmitters and lecturers, and all of you for this opportunity to study tonight. We're going to study the meaning and extraordinariness of ferrying people. We have heard from the transmitters and seniors from time to time to encourage us to ferry people. Ferrying people means to introduce the Tao to others and bring them to receive the Tao. It also means to motivate the others to cultivate and propagate Tao by setting an example. When we received the Tao, we took the 10 great vows, which we should learn later on. And the 9th vow we took reminds us not to conceal the Tao from others. It means to practice the Tao. Tao is our true self or true mind, and also spread the Tao to others. So what is the meaning of ferrying people to receive the Tao? First, to purify our minds and life, because life is filled with vices, anxiety, disorder, confusion, and disturbances, just to name a few. Our mind produces thoughts, which turn into actions. The mind is the source, and we must start from our mind to find solutions. If we think, speak, and act properly, that leads to the reestablishment of order. The Great Learning, which is one of the Confucian 4 books, teaches us how to implement the Tao principles in our daily living, starting with our own mind. And it states, our mind is not proper if we possess anger, fear, indulgence, and worry. For example, with anger, if someone receives critical feedback at work and they get really angry, it creates a tense environment that is hard for others to be productive. And fear and worry make someone feel they are alone, afraid to do what they should or do what they are not supposed to do. But we're not alone. It is a form of self-deception. Indulgence is where we obsess over something and must have it to be happy. But this happiness does not last because it is attached to a form. And we know forms are ever-changing. So anger, fear, indulgence, worry, they can take over our mind if not regulated. People are dealing with the result of which is what we're seeing now. People are dealing with mental health problems, drug and alcohol addictions, problematic interpersonal relationships, troubled homes, and turbulent societies. Mencius, which is he is one of our patriarchs, said that when the world is drowning, rescue it with the Tao. He also stated the way of learning is none other than finding that lost mind. How do we find the lost mind? We must receive the Tao first to start from the point of origin. And since Tao is our true self, that is our point of origin. So that point transmission that we received from our holy teacher through the transmitter points out our true self or true mind. And that is the mind that we have lost to the thoughts and emotions that are run by anger, fear, indulgence, and worry. They obstruct our true mind like the clouds that cover up the sun. This true mind holds our inherent wisdom. They can help us manage people and matters ideally without creating karma. And we should ferry people to receive the Tao so they can find their true mind. After receiving the Tao, follow the 8 stages of the Great Learning to cultivate our mind and body and be able to develop healthy and happy relationships with people and matters. The 8 stages, the first one is to dispel, to remove or clear desires and materialistic attachments. Now, I want to say up front that this is not telling us not to think and not to have any wish for anything. It's more profound than that, because we know as a human, it's not possible to stop thinking and not have anything. We must still live, right? We have to interact with people. We go to school, we go to work, and we have to take on a lot of other responsibilities for many things, right? So what this is saying, though, is that we carry out those responsibilities in daily living as we should. And after we finish with them, then we should let go and not get stuck in the forms. Quiet down the mind. For example, we help someone, and when we finish, we should let it go. Don't sit there and think how much that person should thank and appreciate us. And when they do not acknowledge us in the way that we want, we get upset and think, oh, I will never help them again because they're ungrateful, right? So that is letting thoughts and desires clutter our mind, which create affliction, tension for us. And then we suffer because we're not happy. So we'll talk about this fundamental step of this first stage in details later. But assume that we can let go of everything from our mind, then what is left is our awareness, which is the second stage. Our awareness is the one that can project proper views onto ourselves, on people and matters, therefore freeing ourselves from any bias. Then we arrived at the third stage, where our thoughts are sincere because they're guided by inherent qualities of that true self, not a biased mind. Then we moved on to stage 4, where we unite with our true mind. So this is the inner cultivation part of the mind. Then next, we are ready for stage 5. We use our true mind to direct our thoughts, speech, and conduct. And our conduct, as others see us, will be dressed and decorated by what we call the 5 constant virtues. These are the inherent qualities of our true mind or true self. And we start with sincerity here. And now the quality of sincerity is the essence of our true self, the Tao. So yes, we can say sincerity is our true self. Without pretense. Sincerity also is the foundation of the other 4 virtues. Take humanity is the selflessness and compassion for others. We cannot bear to see other people suffer, and we want to bring relief to them, and also share whatever good and benefits that we have with them. And then righteousness is fulfilling our duties regardless of what happens. Propriety is to yield to others and be able to follow acceptable standards and manners when dealing with people and matters. Then wisdom is knowing right from wrong and the ability to apply true principles in managing people and matters without creating karmas. Virtues will revive us. The true nutrients, right? Virtues are the true wealth and blessing of a person. So they are like the nutrients for our body and mind. And then next we will move to our families, right? Our family sees the change in us, where we replace selfishness, confrontation, impatience, and harshness with unconditional love, understanding, gentleness, and sacrifice, for example. They would like to be around us and they would follow in our example. So this is putting our family in order. And then stage 7, since societies are made up of all families, right? If more and more families can follow this model, society will stabilize. And finally, on to stage 8. If all societies can do the same, the world will be harmonized. It is a chain effect, starting with stage 1, where we must let go to restore our true mind. This is how we can purify our minds and life. Starting with the Tao, the rest, the true mind and the rest will fall into place. It really does work. There is a 15-year-old Tao youth here who was angry and suicidal. He was bullied at school, but luckily he was introduced to the Tao to attend the weekly classes, learn how to manage his emotions. And really after about a couple of months, I saw change in him. He went from being very anxious and shy to being very eager to participate in our weekly classes, the children classes. So he no longer has suicidal thoughts. And then later when the transmitter came, he received the Tao and he's still continuing to attend our weekly classes. He's still being bullied at school, but he's not as angry as before. And now he finds a way to work through his problems, right? So he reports the bullying to the teacher and principal, and he is much happier now. So really what changed him? The Tao principles. I actually spoke to him this week and asked how he was doing. If the classes are helping him, he said yes. He learned about karma, that, and these are his words, that bad behaviors will eventually bring bad consequence to us. So he's trying to be very mindful, to be kind, no matter how other people treat him. It's very rewarding to see the transformation in him. And so the Tao principle is like water for the dying grass. Last year, my lawn was fried. And I thought, is that the grass gonna come back? But here again in April, the lawn is green again. So when our mind is improper, we are like that dying grass. We need the Tao principles to revive and nurture us. The young man finds a path from the Tao principles, gradually clearing the negative emotions from his mind. Therefore, we should bring people to receive the Tao and let them learn the true principles, especially those who are at risk. And we were talking about to go in details on stage 1 to dispel desires and materialistic attachments. So let's talk about that. To do that, we must first learn to differentiate the false mind and from the true mind. That is the true self, right? Or true mind. It is the formless life force that sustains and enables our body to live. And with this life force, our eyes can see the forms, our ears can hear the sound, nose can smell, tongue can taste, body can touch, and the mind can think. So the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind are what we call the 6 sense portals. And then the form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thought are the 6 objects. I may add that the first 5 sense portals, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, they cannot think on their own. So when they meet these external objects, they send those images to the mind. Okay, this mind here is a very shallow consciousness, right? It works like a receptionist in an office. So the mind is the processor that can think about these images and produce a thought. Originally, our sense portals act like a light sensor in a room. They only respond or activate themselves when needed. And after the need is met, the sense portals let go and rest themselves. And before I go any further, I also again like to emphasize, because there may be these kind of questions that come up. We're not talking about not to use the sense portals or the mind, which is not possible or even practical. And we're also not talking about not to have thoughts and emotions, which is also impossible and unreal, right? We have to work, we have to study and interact with people. We must handle matters and solve problems, and we must use our sense portals and mind, because those are the tools for us to do all those things. But we are talking about how to use these tools that can truly benefit ourselves and others, and then nurture equality, understanding, and harmony. For example, our eyes see a neighbor driving a nice car. That image merely flashes by our mind. Our mind recognizes that it is a car. That is one thought, one. And the mind says, okay, that's a car. And it stops right there. It does not process that image any further, and therefore will not produce a sensation of like or dislike. Our mind watches the thought of the image, that car, with awareness, and lets it go. It is able to direct the eyes, in this case, to carry out its basic function as they should, to be able to see and do not attach to what they see. So the external object was kept outside of the mind. Our mind watches thoughts clearly, right? Notice the key here is watch. not try to control the thoughts. It doesn't work to try to control the thoughts, right? Just like when we're angry and somebody tells us, control your anger, and we get more angry. So just like we see someone ringing, think of it as someone, when we watch our thoughts, it's like when we're watching who's coming to our door. Someone rings our doorbell, we take a look at the peephole, and then we recognize, uh-oh, this is a troublemaker. We don't want to answer the door, right? So Zhuangzi, pivotal figure in the school of Tao, with the essence of the Lao Tzu's teaching, said, as soon as our mind moves, the heavenly principle follows. So our thoughts are within and are regulated by that awareness. Therefore, this mind is guided by inherent wisdom, which is important because wisdom helps uphold a balanced and unbiased mind, and we will not create karma, then do not have to suffer. This is what we mean by using the true mind. This is how we regulate our thoughts and desire. Watch them so that we do not get involved with the contents of the thoughts and desires. We do not have to control our thoughts and emotions, but we must watch them. And then the thoughts and emotions will be within that awareness. This way, the mind will not be bound by like or dislike. And without the like or dislike, the mind will be balanced, unbiased. So we do not discriminate against others or matters when we handle them unjustly. So we'll be able to direct the sense portals, right, to do what they're supposed to do. For example, we're greedy and jealous of others. These thoughts are impossible to control. They still arise as we manage people and matters. But when we just watch our mind as these thoughts enter the mind initially, we recognize them. Oh, it is a greed, or I'm jealous. Then we let them go and don't have to fight them or control them. Otherwise, we feel bad. Oh, why am I not able to control these emotions? I learned the Tao principles, or I know better. Or we just flat out go with the greed and jealousy and play them out in our mind. And then we afflict over them and the mind suffers. We also create karma because when we're greedy or jealous, others can feel our bad vibe and bias. We can be mean and treat others harshly, therefore creating interpersonal conflicts, which is karma. So it is very important to learn these principles and allow our true mind to be in charge of our sense portals, and that is ideal. However, I will take a little bit more time to explain this relationship, which is so important. However, our eyes don't behave this way, right? Instead, we see our neighbor driving a nice car, circling back to that example. The eyes communicate the image of the car to our mind, and the mind accepts the image and processes it further and produce a like sensation for it. This like is what we call mind, right? We like sense portal to the object and we produce a consciousness. It's called conditional mind. But it's based on a form, right? And the forms change. So the mind also changes as the form change. For example, here, literally, a Tao member here bought a brand new luxury Honda SUV less than a month ago. And he went everywhere shopping for a lender. Over a year and a half, he finally found one. And that's because of his weak credit history. But he was really adamant about buying this car. He loved it. So he bought it for almost 47K. Then less than a month later, just last week, I found out he dented the passenger door while he was making a turn going somewhere. And the car was white, so it looks very obvious. So I asked how he feels about the car now. He said, it looks so ugly, and he doesn't want to even drive it, looking at it. So you see that initial like was his mind, but it was conditional. It was false because it changes as the form change. This kind of mind is not our true mind. So it's so important to get to know our true mind so that we can be guided by our inherent wisdom, by the principles. So the fourth mind here is driven by sense portals, right? It's ever-changing and unreliable. So what we like, we try our hardest to get it. Our mind focuses on these external images, one thought after another, and we afflict over them. These images are stuck in our mind. They cycle in our mind like this image here. The waves and the tide on the surface of the ocean, tossing back and forth without clarity. We can't see the bottom, right? and calm. So they are dualistic, either like or dislike. What we like, we accept, even when they're not good or necessary for us. And then what we don't like, we reject, even when they're good or necessary for us. And so when we have these dualistic mindsets, like or dislike, the two ends, our mind is biased. We can't inspire our wisdom to guide our mind and body properly. And we also create karma and then have to suffer. So for example, we like junk food, right? We indulge ourselves with junk food, like candy, but it's bad for us. It's bad for our health over time, right? We can eat a little bit, but not indulge on it, right? We may get high blood pressure. We may get illnesses from it, right? Diabetes and cholesterol. So we don't see the bad part because we like the taste and we believe the taste, the object, the form, and we must eat it. On the other hand, we don't like vegetables, especially broccoli. I also don't like broccoli, but I make myself eat it because it's good for me. But they're good for our health, right? We only see the bad, but not the good. So the mind is stuck on either like or dislike based on taste in this case. We cannot follow the false minds because they create karma for us. And karma is where we get bad health, and then we'll suffer from illnesses. So we need to let go of the false minds and restore our true mind so that we can be guided by our inherent wisdom. So all of our sense portals pretty much behave this way. And we've created a lot of karmic debts, right? Our mind goes with the flow, keep taking everything in, and the thoughts and emotions come from the mind getting stuck in the forms. So once the mind is taken over by emotions and thoughts, especially by negative ones, we cannot reason and find a way out. So like the waves that prevent us from seeing the greatness of the ocean underneath it. That greatness is like our inherent wisdom. It's full of treasure that can guide us and provide. So that brightness, that bright wisdom, right, is guided by principles, changeless principles, not the forms that constantly change. So it's important to get to know the true mind. And we are very fortunate that we have, I think Lecturer Kai Jin teaches the Dharma of True Nature class that was conferred upon us by our holy teacher, originally taught by Lecturer Liu. And Lecturer Liu taught us to practice let go of all karmic affinities, don't give rise to a single thought, because all of the thoughts about people, matters, objects, and attachment involve time and space. For example, yesterday somebody said something that offended me. Today, 24 hours later, I'm still holding a grudge and I'm still upset, right? So yesterday was the time the space was where it happened and the people that were in it, right? So these things clogged our minds like those waves that prevent us from seeing the great depth, the clarity and treasures of the ocean. Whenever we have free time, from 5 seconds to a minute or whatever duration we can uphold, replace the 10,000 thoughts with one thought. And that one thought is let go of all karmic affinities and do not give rise to a single thought. And holding this one thought, right, it will essentially shatter all the other thoughts, right, bringing us back, right, to awareness. So it is a way to help us focus on the first treasure. It is, since it's formless, is also not bound by emotions and desires. So unlike the sense portals, they're all full of emotions, desires, because they focus on those forms that are ever changing. So gradually, as we practice letting go of all karmic affinities, do not give rise to a single thought, the divine wisdom, we just said inherent wisdom, but yeah, the good term for it is divine wisdom, right? Because it's not something that we learn from outside, it's inherently equipped within our true self. That will reveal. The divine wisdom acts like an office manager, if you will, that directs our sense portals to only do what they're supposed to do and not be deceived by the forms. So we can use the objects to benefit ourselves. For example, we have a cell phone. Use it to propagate the Tao, follow up on Tao members, call our parents, see how they're doing, instead of using it to gossip, right, for example, or being attached to it, watch, all kinds of soap operas or whatnot. And don't let forms or objects exploit us. When we use our true mind, we're guided by the inner qualities that define workable paths. Use this image. For us, like the highways, They can get us everywhere. When we rely on the false minds, we are misled by emotions, desires that get us stuck on detours and impassable roads. Like sometimes we run into flooded out streets. So we should tell others, we must tell others, right, about these principles by ferrying them to receive the Tao and let them learn. Holy Teacher Jigun Buddha says, you have your mindset, I have my mindset, everyone has a mindset. Each person's mindset is different. What are these mindsets? These are the conditional minds or false minds that he's talking about. And these do not agree with each other, right? So if we use those kind of mindsets, it's driven by emotions and desires. They're selfish and they are not, they're dualistic. But to focus on differences in form rather than the sameness in essence leads to war, right? So if we only used our biased mindsets, then who will like us, right? Everyone's selfish, then everyone wants to fight everyone else. But if we can see the sameness, that's different, right? So if someone who's, you know, unconditionally kind and humane or righteous, there's no one that won't like them, right? Even if they don't like them in the beginning, but they'll be touched by them later on. So only by focusing on the sameness underneath will we unify and see beyond our differences, right? So we always like to, in our mundane life, you know, we have so many labels, you know, okay, you are you, I am me, okay, we don't mix, they are them, we do not mix, right? So now we have to learn to see beyond the forms because they're temporary, right? The essence is what is everlasting. That's our true self. And that comes from the same essence, from heaven, from God. So we need to collapse all the he, she, they, you, I to the we, W-E. Then we can see what Holy Teacher is teaching us, right? So with our mind rectified finally, then we can overcome all those vices, right? The problems that we have mentioned in the beginning of the class. The meaning of ferrying people is to also activate the wholesomeness of inborn humanity within us. Once we can differentiate the truth from falsehood, we naturally draw from the qualities of our true mind. We won't get distracted by the false forms. And by then we'll replace anger, fear, indulgence, and worry and bias with those 5 constant virtues that we talked about. Otherwise, a little thing can strike us down. Once there was a lady who volunteered to let us use her car to propagate the Tao because the transmitters and staff, the senior were here. So after we returned the car to her, she got so upset. And she said, you guys almost put 200 miles on my car. I would have never lent it to you if I knew you were going to drive that much, right? So she was quite stuck on the forms. But on the contrary, a staff member here drove, he bought a new car and his old car was still good. He wanted to donate it to the temple. But at the same time, before we could get it transferred, we have a young lady Tao staff member, and she was going through some extreme hardship. She is very sincere. So we asked him, can you actually give this car to her instead of, you know, the temple doesn't need it, but she needs it. He gave without any hesitation. So we call this the unconditional great effects of the true self. Why was he able to do that? Because he activated his inherent humanity, the utmost sincere and selfless quality. And also, when we're sincere to ferry people, we can also experience what we call the response and assistance from the 10 directions that await us. And we have to really do the work to personally experience the great compassion and subtle force of the saints and Buddha's assistance. Now, saints and Buddhas have taken great vows. They've taken vows, and they do also wish to awaken and release sentient beings from suffering. They can sense our goodwill, and they respond by arranging affinities for us to reach people. For example, this year we really wanted to have a Dharma class, so we asked for permission from Transmitter Rome and our headquarters. But at first, you know, we didn't really have half of a person, right? So it seemed impossible because we can't meet the requirement. But the local staff met and we made a commitment to ferry and motivate our members. And nowadays, there's not a single soul that I know that's not busy. We all have jobs, school, family obligation, a bunch of other things, right? Whole laundry list. But we know we're willing to free up time, whatever time we could, like lunch breaks, after work, weekends, to motivate people, to invite them to attend the weekly classes like this one. And we make phone calls, and then we do a lot of outreaching by visiting them in their homes. And so by doing that, once we really feel the help of the saints and Buddhas in the background, we stopped by a grocery store, and there we ran into 5 Tao members who have not attended Dharma classes before. And that was the perfect opportunity for us to talk to them. We even felt spoiled by the saints and Buddhas because we didn't have to go from home to home, hopping on and off the car, right? So we talked to them about attending Dharma class. Another time, we remember a couple that received the Tao, and they showed interest to listen to the principles at that time. So we've never forgotten them, but we lost contact with them. But then now we really want to find them. So through several people, we try to get contact for him. We didn't have any luck. But finally, one time, we went to visit a family, and then we realized that family was related to this couple. So we asked them, and they turned out that they had a phone number for them. So the couple happily signed up for the Dharma class. The meaning of ferrying people is also to lead and guide others to a proper path. As we said, we all have bad habits and bad tempers, and those bound us from the vicious cycle, right? So many people suffer silently, and Tao is that answer. Our true self is that answer and relief that we need. What individual, people, families, societies, nation, and the world need are that merciful, unconditional love, the humanity, the righteousness. But these can only come if everyone uses their true mind, right? So that's why we spend so much time explaining the difference between the true mind and the false mind. So therefore, we must ferry people to receive the Tao and find that true mind. Once we visited a Tao member couple in their 60s. They're pretty sincere. They attend our classes, and their adult son happened to be there. This is someone that we actually tried to ferry to receive the Tao several times, but he had no interest then. This time we saw him. He looked very sad. He looked lost and defeated. And so we asked, how he was doing. He actually opened up this time. It turned out that he got kicked out of his own house. His wife got a restraining order on him, and they're separated, and he could only see his kids once a week with supervision. The judge also ordered him to pay for all living expenses for his wife and kids. I asked him, what happened? He said he was strung a few times, and he hit his wife, and he shattered plates across the kitchen, mortifying his kids. Then his sister-in-law called the police on him. He wanted to get back with his family so bad, right? But they shut him out. So there is a certain, sometimes, not all the times, but there's a certain humility in people when they're in trouble sometimes, right? So I took the opportunity to really, make a connection with him. I said, this is your fault. And you must apologize to your wife. Stop drinking, stop hitting your wife. If you need help, go to rehab or see a therapist, right? He looked so sad, and I couldn't bear to see him. So we told him, look, Tao can save you and your family. And he said, no, I have too many problems. I know, but I have too many problems. I don't have any interest now. So I said, okay, then when you stop drinking and you want to attend the class and maybe receive the Tao, learn how to change your destiny, then you give us a call. And to my surprise, that was the time nearing the Dharma class. So a day before the Dharma class, he called. And he wanted to come to receive the Tao. So I was skeptical. I said, are you sure? First of all, have you stopped drinking? Have you stopped drinking? And so, at least that way, he couldn't hit his wife because there was a restraining order in there. He said, yes, I'm bringing my father to vouch for me that I stopped drinking. So then, yeah, he received the Tao with the transmitter's permission. And then he attended Dharma class, not entirely willing. But what could he do? I think in his mind, he ran out of options. So he wanted to change his circumstances. And then after Dharma class, we follow up with him to try to encourage him to attend class. But he said, no, I can't sit still. I don't have any interest. Then we thought another way. Okay, can you volunteer for the temple? Can you transport class members from and to the temple? He did that. He said, okay, that I can do. So for about 8 months, right? Up until COVID hit, he did that. After that, we visited him once and in his parents' house, thinking he was still living with his parents. But he said, no, he's visiting. He actually moved back with his wife and kids, and they're living in peace now. This is the effect of Tao principles, saving families. We'll talk about the part on the extraordinariness of ferrying people. One is to help ourselves and others rise from the paths of reincarnation. And these are the two enlightened holy teachers that could do that. They hold a decree from God. Our holy teacher, Jigong Living Buddha, and Holy Lady teacher, Yue Hui Bodhisattva. So we are here. We received that point transmission. Remember, it points out the path to help us restore our true self. Absolute heaven is the place of our true self. So we don't have to die and then go there. We can be there every second of the day, right? But if we may be using that dualistic mind. We don't even know. It doesn't occur to us, right? So when we suffer, it's like we're living in hell. And then we do good. We do mostly good, right? But we still, don't know that path, right? We would be rewarded when we do good, and then so on and so forth, right? So we'd be still trapped in these three realities, right? But we want to transcend, right? That was precious. So ferry people to help them find this path back to their true nature. Otherwise, we reincarnate and we don't find relief to our suffering. Reincarnation does not only mean that our soul recycles after we die. While we're living, we go through reincarnation daily. If we cannot get rid of a bad habit, for example, I know a man who is obsessed with gambling in the casino, and he knew it's bad, but he just can't help himself, right? So he would go when his urge is there, and after that, he regrets it. So he's living like really a vicious cycle. So he finally wanted to put his foot down. He did something by signing a contract with the casino to ban himself from going. And if he dared to show up, he gave them permission to call the police and arrest him. Sure enough, he got arrested twice because of that, because he can't control his urge, right? So that is like living in reincarnation. But it's different for those who are sincere. Tao can help them get rid of the bad habit. I had a friend, Jenny. She received the Tao. She came to the temple to study after that and help cook food. She's a pretty good cook for the class members. So a little bit after that, one day on a Monday, she called me. She said, I want to tell you something good. I said, what? She said, after coming to the temple, something changed in me. She said, I usually go to the casino on Mondays because that's my day off. And that's what I like to do for so many years. But now, all of a sudden, there's a voice that is so forceful telling me, stop going to the casino. And she stopped, right? The other thing that we should mention is when we receive the Tao and we cultivate, we understand our point of origin, right? So that we don't go the wrong path. That also benefits our ancestors, which brings me to this photo. This Tao member here, you guys know Transmitter Rome. She was teaching them the proprieties in the temple. Yet this is a better picture. And I see some of the holy songs that use this picture. And we have our precious transmitters, right? Lecturers, Transmitter Raging, Lecturer Kai, Transmitter Lin, and Lecturer Kenny Do. This is him. this is why they tie their hair up. There was a story. This is the first Iowa Dharma class in 2009. And I believe it was Holy Teacher. I think it was the 7-year-old Buddha, the third prince, that asked them to tie their hair up. But anyway, so he was very sincere. He would come to attend the Dharma, attend the class, and then also he ferried a lot of people to receive the Tao. And one day in class, he shared that he dreamed about his mother the night before, and his mother said to him, "Thank you for what you do." So a little bit of background here, right? When he was very, very little, he said that he really never lived with his mother. He was raised by his grandparents because his mother became severely mentally ill, and they had to put her in institution. So the few times that he visited her, she was really suffering, let's say, and then she passed away in really difficult circumstances. But when he saw her, she was happy and dressed in a nice flowy dress, looking serene, right? And so yeah, that's how we know some of these things that people share. All right, the second point about ferrying people is ferrying ourselves. When we can nurture self-growth, right? It can keep our effort going, and then we can make changes to our shortcomings. So when we introduce the Tao to others, we could easily get stuck in forms. For example, I used to set a goal of how many people I want to bring to receive the Tao, and I would go everywhere when I know when the transmitters and lecturers are coming to convince people that I know to receive the Tao. Then when people made appointments and didn't show up and then they ignored us, I would feel extremely sad and discouraged. But later I read the Holy Scriptures from the Buddhas and realized this is not the Tao. I was using the false mind and stuck in form. So we ferry people because we sincerely want to save them from suffering, right? We should uphold a changeless mind, that true mind, and then the effort, no matter what happens. And Buddha's also told us that heaven cares about how sincere our mind is, not how much we do. Do it and let go without expectations. Another time I caught myself trying to convince a man to receive Tao at 1 p.m. so then he can go to his doctor's appointments at 3:30 p.m. after he had already told me it'd be too tight. So I caught myself, I wasn't being considering of other people's position, and that's also not the Tao. So you see, as we work to ferry people, we can identify our deficiencies and correct our mindsets accordingly. And then on letting go, as we ferry people, personally, I see a transformation in myself. Not that I'm great, but since I received the Tao and started to cultivate and propagate, before the Tao, I loved to go shopping or just walk around the stores. I love to look at everything. And if I saw a commercial on TV that showed a nice decor for the home, I would try to go to the store and find that same item to decorate my house. I used to be obsessed watching HGTV. Some of you might do that too. And TLC that taught people how to dress well and modern. And I wanted to copy them all the time. So I was always in the store whenever I had free time. My old job, in fact, was 6-minute drive from a super Target. So I would go there during my lunch times every day if I could help it with my coworker, buying clothes, kitchenware, home decor, whatever I could. And if I bought things that were 65% or 85% on sale, that made my day. So over and over again, I indulged myself. After buying those things, I would return them a few days later because I didn't like them anymore, or I wanted to get other styles or newer items. My eyes were in charge. So after I started, though, to cultivate and propagate Tao, slowly my shopping interest diminished. I became more involved with the Tao missions. My horizon really expanded. So now instead of shopping, I like to study the principles and scriptures. I like to attend classes, visit the Tao members, and help the temple with whatever I could. Because doing these truly helped me awaken to the true meaning of life. And I am grateful and happy to do it. Now I actually I loathe going to the stores unless I need something like groceries. right? In fact, I avoid going to the store if there's no need. And if I do go, I wanted to get out of there as soon as possible and just give more time to Tao missions. All right, so that really takes care of the big items. Now we're going to share some key points to remember when we ferry people. Quite honestly, if we follow our true mind, our inherent wisdom will guide us on how to manage people and matters and on how to ferry people and what approach to use on what individuals. But yeah, this is some of the, experiences that we have gone through, so we can share. Number one, respecting others is true sincerity. Do not debate other people on their religious practice or beliefs, right? A lot of people, they already have their beliefs, but, we are now to return to our source, right? So acknowledge their beliefs, be a good listener, and let them feel the Tao showing through our attitude and behaviors. It will help them see the value, the value of Tao later. Second point, do not impose on others, and we should learn from our Shimu, our Holy Lady teacher, when she also used to propagate Tao. Visit others when it's convenient to them, not us. So try to avoid lunchtime, morning time, evening time, where people have to get ready to rest or to set for the day. Don't eat in their homes, for that creates work for them. Third point, take people's concern into consideration and address their needs. Speak if needed. Only speak if needed. So yeah, we come upon different people with different backgrounds, right? So if we are trying to ferry older people, help them see the benefits of eating plant-based food, to stay healthy and live longer, for example, they really care about those two things. And if we're ferrying couples, husband and wives, middle-aged group, help them see that the Confucian principles can help us build and nurture loving and peaceful relationships and families. And also that they can raise responsible and kind-hearted children. And if we're ferrying young people, help them gain a sense of confidence and responsibility about their future and goals, right? By explaining the Tao principles, such as the law of cause and effect, to help them stay on track and not be tempted by things. Then look for connections. Once I was at a doctor's office, and this doctor is so kind and personable. He would greet his patients by holding their hands as he talked to them with a warm smile the whole time. And then he would ask them, what concern they had that he could help with. So I saw him, that's how I know. So I took the opportunity to introduce the Tao to him by saying, I can feel your kindness by the way you treat your patients. And he smiled with appreciation. And then I said, I would like to introduce the Tao to you, which is related to your kindness. And he seemed really interested. And I think this was really by the grace of heaven and the arrangements of the saints and Buddha, our holy teachers, that he received the Tao later. And it turned out he is very kind. And he volunteered at youth organizations, one that is serve youth around the world. And then create platforms. I used to volunteer for a church to teach ESL, and I met some amazing people who ended up receiving the Tao. Some of them stay with the temple all the way to even now. Okay, so how do we establish this conviction in ferrying people to be confident and to keep doing it? Uphold that awareness. That's always the default, the point of origin, our foundation, true self, right? So if we use our true self, we're not going to have, sometimes we really want to ferry people, and other times when things don't work out or we have issues in our personal life, we feel like, no, I don't have time for this, right? So uphold that true self. By practicing that, let go of all karmic affinities, don't give rise to a single thought whenever we have free time, so that way we can shorten the distance between our true self and our actual behaviors now. All right, so the next thing that can help us to stay confident in ferrying people is to study the Tao heritage history and lives of our Grand Patriarch. This is our Grand Patriarch. His name is last name Lu Zhongyi. And our holy teachers, right? Jigong Living Buddha and our Yerhui Bodhisattva Holy Lady teacher. So yeah, believe in our true self. Don't believe in the outside forms. Because the true self comes with changeless principles that can guide us, right? My cousin used to tell me that Tao was made available to all people because Tao is here to rescue calamities. Living in America, I could not make that connection on any personal level. And until recently, I studied from a transmitting master in Taiwan, and he is also a college professor that teaches history. So he is teaching the Tao heritage history, and he's done extensive research on that subject. So from him, I learned that in 1905, God decreed the Tao would transition into an era of open propagation, beginning with our 63rd patriarch, Lu Zhongyi patriarch. We call this era the White period. One key factor for this transition was the rapid development of research into nuclear reactions, the study of which eventually led to the creation and use of the atomic bomb. And many of us have learned about the devastating impact the two bombs dropped in Japan. For now, what they call the principle of MAD, mutually assured destruction, has kept us mostly safe. But God sees that urgency, right? What if, nations are going to use these nuclear weapons? It can wipe out the entire mankind. So, but God is merciful. Buddha's saints are merciful. They cannot see that happen. Therefore, they lower this Tao to the human world. And this is why the Tao blessing, the path back to our true self, is pointed out to us to rescue our souls and mankind. Also, we should follow in our holy teacher Jigong Buddha's example. These holy teachers, right, these patriarchs, they're not just, they didn't come down to the world to be worshipped by sentient beings. They came and led an example. Just like our holy teacher, Shizun Jigong Buddha, he ferried 64 people to receive the Tao. And those 64 people I just learned recently, they were all from his families, his family clan, his immediate families, his extended families, and his members of his big family clan. And a lot of them took issues with him. Not everybody liked him. He was rejected, slandered. He was laughed at, made fun of, and he was antagonized. But he used his true mind, right? And he used his sincerity to touch upon them. And in the end, all of them receive the Tao and then follow him to cultivate the Tao. So we got great examples set forth by a holy teacher for us to follow. We can also build our confidence by drawing from the principles stated in the Confucian classics, such as the 4 books and the direct holy scriptures composed by the saints and Buddhas. These can help us identify the problems in our lives, mostly really to do with bad habit, bad tempers, right? And then they provide instructions to us on how to correct ourselves and restore our true mind. And also we can learn from our transmitters, seniors, see how they have sacrificed, devoted, and contributed to the Tao community. Without them, we won't even be able to have this class, right? So we should really think deep, and there's so many people that serve in the background, right? Especially our senior, for this class specifically, right? The transmitters, they sacrifice themselves, and that goes without saying. But our senior, specific to this class, our senior English lecturers, lecturer Kai, lecturer Tai, take an opportunity to thank them. Lastly, build a small team. When we are sincere to ferry people, heaven and Buddhas will match us with other sincere cultivators and talents. And then we have this team spirit is very effective, because Tao is to be cultivated and propagated together. We are one. Right? Our holy teacher said, we must make Tao cultivation and propagation into our daily living routine. Do do a little bit every day, right? Don't be don't overwork sometimes and other times slack off. Okay, so in conclusion, our Holy Teacher Jigong Buddha is so merciful, advising us, right, all the time. He's always around us. He says, activate our merciful minds, right, that true mind. Then we attract great energy. And wherever there's doubt, propagation, cultivation, that place can feel the grace of God and saints and Buddhas. It is those places are also protected and supported by God and the saints and Buddhas, because we are doing the work of rescuing others and salvaging our world. And we must rescue people and the world. And by establishing great connections, right, serve people, and then we can ferry them to the Tao. And here, everyone, our headquarter temple is called弥勒寶堂. So弥勒means Maitreya Buddha. This is Maitreya Buddha.寶堂means precious temple. So the fact that we receive the Tao, we receive the Tao by that point transmission given to us by holy teachers. We officially have boarded this Maitreya Dharma boat. Right? So our headquarter temple is our home, our spiritual home. And how lucky we are, right, to be able to be part of this. And then also, I forgot to mention one thing, the history about Grand Patriarch. We're so blessed and proud to be part of that history. So everyone, we have gotten our work cut out for us. Let's all get to work, ferry people, and we can do it together. We can do it. This concludes the class. And if I have misspoken, I ask for saints and Buddhas for forgiveness. And I ask for our transmitters and our senior lecturers for correction and guidance. Thank the heavens, grace, the enlightened holy teachers' virtues. Thank my parents. Thank the grand predecessor, and thank our senior transmitter and all transmitters and all of you for this opportunity. Thank you.